G'day, it's Friday and you know what that means. That means it's time for Tackle Fridays. It is the weekly at the moment, roundup of what's been going on in the Fishing Monthly offices in my boat, things that have come in and out of the office. And I do reserve the right not to do it every week. One week I'm going to be too busy driving somewhere and there won't be a Tackle Fridays. But for the last 13 weeks, here we are. And we got back to the office, done all the cleanup from down south. And there's some pretty cool things I've found this week. Firstly, let's go to last week's comp though. We had the Justin Hamner Buck and Bass cap. This was because Justin won the Bassmaster Classic. We had a comments competition in the last video. A winner of that, picked randomly, was John Albrecht. I assume that's the same John that fishes non-boater in the ABT event in Tassie. John, I reckon we've got your address on the ABT database. Next week, that is going to be coming your way. So you tagged one of your mates. I think it was Steve Lampsakianos in it. So you get yourself a hat, which will turn up in the mail for you. So well done, John. Am I going to do a giveaway every week? No. But am I going to do another giveaway this week? Yeah, sure. Some Buck and Bass gloves. I found some of these lying around. These were some samples that came in from Will, the big dog over at Buck and Bass. They're called Ray Sam's. I think that's after Sam Rayburn Reservoir in the US. These are XL size gloves. They're basically stretchy. They'll fit anyone. I will send them out to someone who shares this post, and you have to share it on Facebook for me to see that you've shared it. So get sharing. You know, you can let people know that we're talking about tackle on a Friday afternoon and what's going on in this part of the world. This part of the world right here is the studio at ABT. I'm at Shayla Park, which is in southeast Queensland. It's a couple of days after we've had a bit of rain through. That rain's all moved south at the moment. Gave the bass catchments a bit of a drenching, and I think they get a little bit more water in the next few days, but it looks like she'll drop and she'll all be fine and full of water for the two ABT bass rounds coming. We're going to be talking about that in a while. Now, in that process of packing up for all of the stuff bass, we were unloading all of the stuff from KEITECH. Now, Bait and Sparrow, great ABT sponsor. I'm digging through all the prizes and I found that in there. It said a bag for Morgo. So it was in with the prizes. I pulled it out, but I haven't actually opened it until right now. I know what it is. The bag's clear, and he was telling me about them. This is a lure for all of the brim guys who are massive fans of the old creature baits, like the old Berkeley hogs and gold crabbies and stuff like that. You might be interested in this. These aren't a bio bait. These are a plastisol bait called the Crazy Flappers. Now, they've already had this 2.4 inch size. That's a 2.4 inch size Crazy Flapper, and it's not two bags of it there. There's actually two trays in the bag of plastics here. But they're a creature bait, and I'll pull one out with all of the appendages very well wrapped so that they don't get screwed up in your tackle storage. But check that little guy out. I'll hold him by one of the arms. If you're after a creature bait, and I'm sure you have to break those legs apart to really get them kicking. They're salted. I can feel the salt on my fingers. That might be a solution for the guys that love fishing creature baits around structure for a brim on a G-head. I assume you'll either fish it with the head and these two little ones here, or you can even nip the head off if you want a really short finesse bait, and away you go. There's 10 of these in a packet, and there's a lot of really natural colours. But what's also in here are the even smaller baits. They're the 2-inch Crazy Flappers from KEITECH. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe bait and double these ones up just to give me a variety of colours in there. I'm not sure. But these ones look like commercial packets, and they've got 8 in the packet. No, I look on the packet, it says 10 tails. 10 tails in the 2.4s, 8s in the 2s there. Check them out at your local KEITECH dealer. So thanks, Baden. I'm not a huge plastics man on the brim, but I am learning. And I'll be trying those out maybe at the Open and the Hawkesbury. If they don't like some of the stuff I'm throwing at the structure, they might like some of the little KEITECHs. So Crazy Flappers, they're called. The full Morgo bag is making my plastics bag get even bigger. I might even have to break it out and have 2 plastics bat trays in my boat. Who knows? The other thing I did down in Tassie, I lost a few of my shallow stick baits. In particular, the Daiwa Pressos, the old Daiwa Presso colours. I had a bit of a stock of them. I usually fish the Presso, and I've got another one here. I usually fish them with the strip of lead along the back, and the reason I do that is because I fish them in really shallow water. If I'm throwing them in this deeper water, And even though it's a shallow diving lure, if it dives headfirst into the weed, it'll pick up the weed, and it might also get snagged on the rocks on those trebles. So I put a strip of lead along under the back here, and it'll still duck its head down and swim a little bit under the water, but then when it stops, it'll actually float like this. So when I jerk it the next time, it'll stay up off the bottom. And that's a really effective way of catching shallow water bream in Tassie. I put a little cutaway here. My biggest bream on the first day at St Helens was on that presso. That presso don't live no more. And I didn't have any of the colours, but what I did have was a big box of stuff that I bought from this store in Japan. It's called Tackleberry. You can't mail order off them, but they do have a chain of tackle stores in Japan that sells second-hand pre-loved lures. And for tackle junkies like me, they are awesome. I always go there. I blow at least $500 on second-hand lures. And that is a massive stash of tackle. For instance, this presso that probably costs 20 to 25 bucks in Australia, look at it there, 216 yen, which is less than $3 for a pre-loved. It's just a little bit of chrome on there, but a pre-loved presso that all I have to do is put a couple of hooks and a lead strip on, and it's ready to go. Here's another one I found, and it was in my stash of tackleberry stuff. That one there was 324 yen, so that's under $4 for that old presso there, and I can't even get that colour in Australia anymore. Aficionados of shallow divers would like the Imakatsu Rip Riser. They're like a $30-something bait in Australia, second-hand in Japan. 562 yen, which is about less than $7. So if you ever go to Japan, go to Tackleberry. There's heaps of them around, and I always find gems. Stuff that's popular over here and we don't find anymore, it might be in the dump bin over there because it's a different sort of fishing. So if you go to Japan, and I'm going to Japan in July, I am going to definitely have another visit to a Tackleberry store. Now, let's catch up to a question that I was going to cover last week and I forgot. Crab storage. And I'm going to whack a photo in here of next level crab storage, thanks to Steve Steersy, and indeed one of his pro staffers both contacted me and said, I've got some large crabs if you need them for the open and for the Hawkesbury round of the ABT. Really appreciate those offers, but I did buy a few off Adam, and I got back to the office on a scrounge 6 or 8 up, so I reckon I've got enough to get me through those 2 events. But how next level is Steersy storage. But this is, I've got a large crab here and a small crab here. So this is a standard Plano 3700 tackle box I've got here. You make these modifications, and I'll show you the back side of it. You notch out for the big crabs, a couple of little slots where you can throw the hooks, and then in the bottom, notch out a little bit where it holds the rubber band. Now that could be the rubber band that comes out of your Cranka crab boxes, or it can be I think they called them like loom bands, where the kids weave with those little rubber bands. Cheap as dirt, you get like 1 million rubber bands for about $5. And if what you do is you want to store your Cranka crabs with those legs nice and flat, as they are there, they hang vertically in the box when I put that in the slot in the box. Let me show you how we did the little ones. They hang in the box nicely. There's a little one of my repaints that's had a big chew on it. The legs don't hit anything. The legs stay straight. And if those legs go crooked, it'll spin on the way down and the bream will not eat it as well. These ones here I modified by actually cutting the top first. So first, get the little Dremel, cut that top bit off, put the hooks in, put the rubber band on, put that in. It holds that thing dead tight in your tackle box. Now, I've got a whole lot of crabs I'm rebuilding and cleaning at the moment. This thing normally is full of all of my second-hand crabs, like the brand new ones, of course, I store in the Cranka boxes, the brand new boxes. But once they're second-hand, they get put into the box like this. So there's a whole lot of crabs sitting there from the second-hands. I've used a lot of them in the last 6 months fishing. I'm going to restock that till it's full again. And I also carry in that box, there's a whole lot of the left and right claws. So if I want to do some running repairs on the water, they just say a claw loses a flotation or it breaks off one of the treble tines during a tournament, little pair of split ring pliers, 10 seconds, and that thing is swapped over. So that's what my crab box look like. When I've pulled the crabs off, I just throw these back in the box, throw the empty crab backings, and I've got a whole lot of spare little rubber bands in there. They're those loom bands I was talking about. So I'm all ready to get that restocked, and come wintertime especially, that thing's going to be restocked. Whenever I pre-fish with a second-hand crab. If I'm on a really hot bite and they're just biting, I use a second-hand crab. But if it's real finessey or the first day of a tournament, I always grab a brand new Cranka crab out of the box. It's a superstition thing. Got to have a new crab on a new first day of a new tournament. So that's how we store the crabs, and that just fits in with the other 3700 size boxes in my boat. Next on the list, improvements to the live stream. I was having trouble sleeping the other night, and I thought, I know exactly what's going to make me go to sleep, watching my own live stream from the Derwent River in Tassie. And it worked a treat. I only made it up to the point where I was driving the boat upriver and I fell asleep. I don't often watch my live streams afterwards, so I usually pick the highlights out, but I don't actually sit there and watch the 10-minute boat ride where all you see is a wide-angle shot of waves going past. It doesn't look very rough at all, even though sometimes it can be quite rough. And I thought one of the areas I think I can improve the live stream is when we're having a boat running shot, I can move that to half of the screen and I can embed a map in the second half of the screen. Now, I've got the technology, been able to do that for 5 or 6 years. So I think in the future, as I'm running along, I can use my other phone, link that to my live stream, have a map on it, and away we go. But another thing that I think I'd be able to link in where it's appropriate, and at the risk of looking like a wanker, I got one of these. This is a neck-mounted, MagSafe phone holder, which will give me that sort of first-person view of what's going on. So it comes like this, goes around the neck. This is for the iPhone MagSafe stuff, and even in a case, there it goes. And I can embed that as either a true up or a one up shot in my live stream. So you can control it all the normal ways, and I can get it put in there. And I'm going to make a little safety strap to hold it on there because I'm sure I'll knock it, it might fall off. Although that MagSafe connection, that's pretty cool. So, and I can get that wide angle so that at least you can see if I'm fishing top water or fishing structure that you can't see from that back camera. I might be able to run this as a, at times when it's needed. I'm not going to run this all day. I'm not going to look like a tosser all day. But I did do a few practice shots last night. Got them running here. Gives a good look. You can see lures splashing down in the distance. I think it's going to be fine. And remember that shot, that stuff there was shot at night, whereas all the stuff that we're going to do is during the day. So a couple of improvements to the live streams we've got there. Take that off, like that. And the last thing I'm going to talk about today is a bit of preparation for the bass rounds. As I said, they're going to be high, flowing strong, probably dirty water conditions for both of the events. It'll mix up the bass, even for people who were pre-fished at Easter. It's only a couple of weeks later than Easter. I think it's going to be all juggled up. My experience, Northern Rivers bassing, my first ever bass I caught at Nashua on the Richmond River when I was about 14 or 15 years old. I don't mind that dirty water at all. That water's nearly dirty nearly all the time in those catchments. And so for me, it's all going to be about the crankbaits, spinnerbaits, buzzbaits, top water. I think those fish are going to be pushed right in on the edge. And even jerkbaiting, I'm not afraid of jerkbaiting in dirty water. A couple of years ago at the Clarence tournament, fish sitting on the reef, they were up under about 5 foot of water in 30 foot of water chasing prawns. And this is the first ones I've got packed. The 50, this isn't the 53, but the 53 size diver spike minnow in that Suji prawn sort of colour. That was the absolute killer that weekend. So I've got some of those packed in there. I'm going to channel the sponsor Karma in the dirty water. What is going to be better than a couple of these fellas? These are the 13 Fishing by Rapala Jabberjaws. Now, they released these maybe 6 months to a year ago. Pretty unique bait. They're quite a big body bait. They're sort of at the upper size of what I'd be fishing. But they come in a shallow and a deep diver, and check those bibs. They sit in a slot and they're not glued in. They go from side to side. So you can hear the noise, that extra noise it makes. When you've got noise of a crankbait, it's the internal rattles. This one doesn't have any. That one's got one internal rattle. But the rattle of the bib, the rattle of the hooks, makes that a very noisy lure, and that might be pulling him in dirty water. They've got to have sonic cues rather than visual cues to see the lure. So I'm going to definitely have my Jabberjaws packed in. I'm of course going to have the ugly crank in there. This is the guys from Your Outdoor Experience. This is the Hide Up 150 crank, cast like a golf ball. I sometimes call it the golf ball. It's horrible yellow colour that Joey Urquhart suggested to me. Worked a treat in the grand final in the Richmond River, and that was a dirty water event as well. Like, they're all dirty water events in the Richmond, but the bass find it and they eat it. And of course, it'd be silly not to have that lure pack. That's the Rapala Shad Wrap Elite. That was the one that won the Open in the Clarence on last year. So what I learnt from that Open was this lure with that square bill and the slightly positive buoyancy is a gun for fishing through tight structure in the snags. I literally had to get it off snags once a day, fishing the snaggiest creek I fish for bass. So in the high dirty water, throwing it on the edges, having a lure that doesn't snag up is going to be gold. And I think the Shad Rap Elites are going to be one of those lures. It's not a noisy lure, it's a silent balsa lure, but it's going to be able to crawl through that thick stuff. The other things I'm going to have packed, man, Bassman spinnerbaits are made on the Richmond River. So you'd be crazy if I don't have a few of the Bassman buzzbaits tied on. White, black, I don't think it matters that much for top water, but one of these things clacking along in that dirty water is going to be a way to pull fish out and let them know at least that the lure is there. So the locally made Bassman buzzbaits, and of course the TW model Bassman spinnerbaits. TW of course stands for Tournament Wanker. I think it's something, it might have something to do with weighting as well, but that's what it stands for. And I'm really proud that still, the picture on the back of the Bassman's spinnerbait boxes, or the packets, this one here, I drew that about 20 years ago. And Glenn, you need to invest in a better drawer, because that ain't a good picture and you're still using it. Obviously you sell spinnerbaits, but yeah, that's some of Morgo's old artwork from 20 years ago when we did all the stuff by hand for the magazine. So that's about what's going on this week. The boat's getting cleaned. Oh, I do have a real quick snapshot here. Check this out. Oh, what was that? Was that a Brizzy River Barra? That was on some lure I'm not allowed to talk about that's going to be launched by Rapala in months and months' time. But click back on that. That was a good barra during the week. Shh. Can't show what it was. Can't tell you. Can't show you what it was caught on. But you will see that come after show. That's about it this week. Remember, if you want to win some Buck and Bass gloves, these ones that I got here, we don't actually have stocks of these. We don't sell these gloves. There are a couple of samples I had in there. Share it. Share the video, and you might be getting drawn out last week like John Albrecht was this week. Next week will be Friday. We will be doing this video, I assume, somewhere after the briefing or before the briefing, after the practice day of Richmond River Round. Probably we'll do it in Joey Urquhart's shop at Casino Outdoors. Oh no, it's the Clarence one first, isn't it? It'll probably be at Grafton Firearms. If you've never been to Grafton Firearms and Tackle, do yourself a favour and find it in South Grafton. It is the biggest little shop ever. You walk into it and you think, oh yeah, nice little shop. You walk around a corner, got a lot of stock in it. Around another corner, oh, a big room full of lures. Around another corner, it is a maze and it is full of awesome stuff, and some of which you might find hard to find elsewhere. So between the two bass briefings at Grafton Firearms and a Casino Outdoors and Disposals, there is going to be all of the baits that you need to fish these upcoming 2 river rounds. That's Tackle Fridays. Catch you next week.